The lady with the unquenchable thirst for blood appeared in front of the police for the first time. She was so calm that they didn't suspect anything. But when they searched her house, everything changed. In this story, we will tell you about a woman who was tired of living an ordinary life. Her husband and children were her whole world. She had no complaints about her life, but one day she decided to take a walk in the woods behind her house. It was there that she felt something strange and inexplicable. For the first time, an insane desire to kill someone. And although it sounded crazy, she was filled with an irrepressible thirst for human blood. This moment changed the woman forever. At first, Martha couldn't understand what was happening to her. She tried to ignore the feeling and pretend it didn't exist. But the more she fought against it, the stronger the craving became. So she decided to seek help from a psychologist. He listened to her story and determined that the only way to help her was to let her do what she wanted. So the doctor encouraged Martha to commit murder. After that, the woman felt much better. However, she was still afraid to get caught. And since then, Martha's main goal in life has been to find a way to kill without any consequences. She researched poisons, but they took too long to work and left traces behind. The same was true of knives and other sharp objects. But then Martha stumbled upon an article about a new type of anesthetic called succinyl chloride. It was a relatively new drug at the time and was used mainly in surgery. Martha figured out that if she injected the drug into someone's veins, the person would fall into a deep sleep and wouldn't wake up. Plus, the drug didn't leave behind any traces. That's how Martha came up with her plan. She knew that her husband's company sent him on business trips quite often, so she decided to invite her colleague from work, John, over while her husband was away. Martha prepared a romantic dinner, poured him a glass of wine, and invited him to her bedroom, where she injected him with the drug. In the morning, she woke up alone in the bed next to a dead body. Of course, she was scared, but also excited because finally she could quench her thirst. Martha took a knife and cut open the man's jugular vein. Blood gushed out, and the woman drank it. It tasted like victory. But after the first excitement subsided, Martha began to panic again. She was afraid that the police would find out what had happened and that she would be convicted. So she quickly got rid of the evidence, put on her husband's clothes on top of her own, and went to work as usual. Later, the police found John's body. His wife reported him missing around the same time. So the investigators assumed that the man had left home without saying goodbye and went to look for him. But soon they realized that John's car had been seen near Martha's house. That's why the detectives paid her a visit. When the officers entered Martha's house, they saw a picture that made their blood run cold. There was a pool of blood on the floor and walls. Furniture and curtains were covered with it. There was also a severed human head in a plastic bag. When the police asked Martha where her husband was, she calmly replied that he was on a business trip. Then she invited the officers inside to prove that she was telling the truth. They agreed, and when the police entered the house, they were surprised by how calm and relaxed Martha was. She greeted them warmly, offered them tea and cookies, and even showed them photos of her husband. Seeing how friendly and open Martha was, the officers thought that she was just a loving wife who missed her husband. They spent several hours interrogating her, but Martha denied everything. Even when the police found John's severed head in a plastic bag, she didn't confess. After the officers left, Martha burst into tears. She cried not because she was sorry for what she had done, but because she was afraid of going to jail. That's why she called her lawyer and told him everything. As it turned out later, the defense attorney wasn't even surprised. He had already figured out what had happened when he noticed traces of blood in Martha S.'s bathroom and on the carpets. The lawyer helped Martha to hide the evidence and get rid of the incriminating items. For example, he advised her to throw away the bloody clothes in which she had butchered John, and then buy new curtains and wallpaper for her house. The police never found any evidence that directly linked Martha to the crime scene. Only a few witnesses claimed that they had seen John entering Martha's house. However, they didn't take these words very seriously. After all, what kind of sane person would invite a colleague over for a romantic dinner? So Martha got away with murder, or rather murders. Over time, the woman's appetite for human blood only grew. Moreover, she developed a taste for expensive perfumes. Each time Martha committed a murder, she sprayed the victim with her favorite perfume before drinking their blood. And when the police found another dead body, they immediately compared the scent to the samples taken from Martha's house. But the woman's perfume smelled so good that the investigators didn't suspect anything. Thus, Martha continued killing people for many years, and each time she made sure to cover her tracks. Sometimes she invited strangers to her home, and sometimes she met them on dates. Once Martha even killed her friend, whom she'd invited to have dinner. She only chose beautiful and elegant women as her victims. And when the police found another victim, they discovered that she was Martha's double. Finally, the investigation reached a stalemate. The police didn't have any leads or evidence. That's why they decided to release Martha. She was so happy about that. The woman thought that she had gotten away with it once again. But little did she know that the investigators had planted a special device in her house that recorded everything that happened inside. A year passed, and Martha continued to lead her usual way of life. She even started seeing a psychologist again to keep her thirst for blood under control. But then the police suddenly raided her house. They showed up with a search warrant and took Martha into custody. When they searched her house, they found traces of blood on the carpet. And when they checked her basement, they found a secret room where Martha kept trophies from her victims, jewelry, clothes, and even their teeth. Also in the secret room, the police found 2 boxes full of audio recordings. On them were conversations between Martha and her lover. In one of those recordings, the woman even bragged about how easy it was to kill a person and drink their blood. As you can imagine, such evidence was enough to convict her. During the trial, Martha confessed to 28 murders. The court appointed 3 psychiatrists to assess her mental state. And after listening to Martha, they concluded that she was sane and understood the consequences of her actions. So the woman was found guilty and sentenced to life imprisonment. Martha spent her last years in prison talking to a psychologist, regretting what she had done. Now and then, she had panic attacks during which she begged for forgiveness for the murders. But most often, the woman asked to be locked up in solitary confinement, claiming that the other inmates wanted to kill her. But in reality, Martha was probably just afraid to spend her last days among people, because she knew that even in prison she wouldn't find understanding and compassion. When people think of serial killers, they usually imagine men. However, this is not entirely true. Over the years of its existence, humanity has known many female serial killers. Moreover, some of them are doing time in prison right now. There is another similar case that happened in Germany in 2001. Back then, soon, several more bodies were found in the same place. Forensic experts managed to determine that all the women had been killed with a single blow to the head. The killer also sexually assaulted his victims, but he always made sure to erase any traces of the crime. Investigators had almost no leads in the case, and it seemed as if the killer would never be found. But then a witness came forward who said that she had seen a man leaving the forest shortly before the discovery of the bodies. The man was driving a blue Opel Kadett. The witness also remembered the license plate number. The police tracked down the car's owner. It was registered to Joseph, appeared before the police. At first, he acted like an innocent man who had nothing to do with the murders. But when the officers searched his house, they found bloody clothes and traces of the victim's DNA. Thus, Joseph was convicted of murdering 7 women. But it was later revealed that he was actually responsible for the deaths of 16 women. He became known as the Beast of the Autobahn.